The first thing I noticed about Thornfield Academy wasn't the Gothic towers piercing the Oregon mist, or the way the windows watched like hollow eyes. It was the portraits. They lined every hallway, maybe thousands, each showing a student in the same navy blazer, the same forced smile, but their eyes were wrong. Every single one had been painted with their eyes closed. "Don't stare too long," said the girl beside me, making me jump. She had honey-colored hair and a scar that ran from her left temple to her jaw, pale as moonlight against her brown skin. "I'm Iris. You must be the new scholarship student." "Mara," I managed, trying not to look at the scar, trying not to look at the portraits, failing at both. Iris smiled, and despite everything, the oppressive weight of this place, the 3-hour drive through woods that seemed to swallow sound, something in my chest unclenched. "Come on, I'll show you to your room before the maiden spell." "The what?" "You'll see." Her fingers brushed mine as she took one of my suitcases, and I felt it like static electricity, like prophecy. "Just remember, when you hear it, close your eyes and count to 30, no matter what you hear, no matter what you think you see." Thornfield had rules, not just the ordinary ones about curfews and uniforms, but others whispered from student to student, like folklore. Never go to the 3rd floor after midnight. Don't look in mirrors during a thunderstorm. If you find a door that wasn't there before, don't open it. When the portrait's eyes open, run. That was Iris's, shared 2 weeks into term as we sat in the abandoned greenhouse, autumn rain drumming against the glass. We'd been meeting there every evening, supposedly to help me catch up in Latin, but really just to be near each other, to let our knees touch under the dusty table, to pretend we didn't notice the way our hands kept finding excuses to meet. "Has it happened, the portraits?" I asked. She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, once, my first year, a girl named Sophie was out after the maiden spell. She looked at them when their eyes opened. "What happened to her?" Iris traced her scar unconsciously. "She's still here, in a way." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my narrow bed, listening to my roommate's breathing and the old building settling around us like a living thing. Sometime after 2, I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. They stopped outside our door. Then a whisper. "Mara." It sounded exactly like Iris. I found the gallery by accident, chasing what I thought was Iris's laugh through the servants' corridors. The door was hidden behind a tapestry depicting a girl with no face, and it opened to my touch like it had been waiting. Inside, hundreds more portraits, but these were different. These subjects had their eyes open, and they were moving, slight turns of the head, fingers twitching, mouths forming silent words. At the center hung a massive oil painting of a woman in Victorian dress, beautiful and terrible, her painted eyes tracking my movement. "You shouldn't be here." I spun to find Iris in the doorway, but something was wrong. Her scar was on the wrong side of her face. "Iris?" She smiled, and her teeth were too sharp, too many. She was beautiful, wasn't she? The first headmistress, Margaret Thornfield. She loved her students so much she couldn't bear to let them leave. The not Iris stepped closer, so she found a way to keep them. Forever. The portraits were moving more now, hands pressing against canvas as if trying to break free. I backed away, but the not Iris was between me and the door. She's sleeping now, mostly, but sometimes she wakes up. Sometimes she's hungry. Not Iris tilted her head. "She likes you, Mara. She thinks you'd be a beautiful addition to her collection." That's when I heard it, the maiden spell, impossibly loud, shaking dust from the ceiling. Not Iris's face went slack with terror. "Close your eyes." The real Iris burst through the door, grabbing my hand. "Both of you, Close them now." I squeezed my eyes shut as something massive moved through the room, bringing the smell of oil paint and decay. I heard canvas tearing, heard not Iris make a sound that wasn't quite a scream. Iris's hand in mine was the only real thing in a world gone mad. When the bells stopped, when Iris finally said it was safe to look, not Iris was gone. But there was a new portrait on the wall, a girl with honey-colored hair and a scar on the wrong side of her face, eyes forever open in silent screaming. It was my sister, Iris told me that night in my room, both of us shaking. My twin. She came here first 2 years ago, then one day her letters stopped. When I arrived, everyone acted like she never existed, except the portrait. She nodded, tears cutting silver tracks down her face. I've been trying to find a way to free them, all of them, but Margaret Thornfield's spirit is bound to this place, and she's growing stronger. Soon she won't need the bell anymore. Soon she'll be able to take whoever she wants, whenever she wants. I pulled her close, felt her heartbeat against mine, rabbit quick and terrified. There has to be a way. There is. She pulled back to look at me, and I knew what she was going to say before the words came. We have to find her original portrait, her true one, and destroy it. We searched for weeks, through abandoned classrooms where equations still moved across blackboards, solving themselves in endless loops, through the library's restricted section, where books whispered secrets in languages that predated words, through the basements, where we found a room full of empty frames, and another full of glass eyes that followed our movements. All the while, we were falling in love. It happened in stolen moments, Iris teaching me to waltz in the empty ballroom while portraits watched, my fingers braiding flowers into her hair during a rare sunny afternoon. The first kiss, soft and desperate, in the greenhouse while rain turned the world to watercolor outside. But Thornfield was watching too. Doors started appearing in our reflections. The maiden's bell rang at odd hours, just 3 chimes, like a warning. My roommate woke up painting in her sleep, creating portrait after portrait of students I'd never seen, all with their eyes sewn shut. Then Iris found it. Not a portrait at all, but a mirror in the headmistress's office, covered in black cloth and locked behind iron gates. She didn't want a painting, Iris breathed, staring at our reflection in the antique glass. She wanted to see herself change, to watch herself become something more than human. As if in response, our reflections began to shift. Mine stepped backward while I stood still. Iris's raised a hand to the glass from the wrong side. And behind us both, Margaret Thornfield materialized, beautiful and monstrous, her face a composite of every student she'd ever taken. "My dear girls," Margaret said, her voice like paint peeling from canvas, "you've been so industrious, so clever. I could use students like you." The mirror began to pull, not physically, but something deeper. I felt my memories, myself being drawn towards the glass. Beside me, Iris was fading at the edges, becoming translucent. "Let her go," I shouted. Margaret laughed. "I never let them go. That's the point. But I'll make you a deal, little Mara. One of you stays willingly, becomes my apprentice, helps me collect new editions. The other goes free, and I'll release one portrait of your choosing." I looked at Iris, saw my answer reflected in her eyes. We both knew what we had to do. "Together," I said, grabbing Iris's hand. "Together," she agreed. We charged the mirror. The glass exploded into 1,000 pieces, each reflecting a different moment. Iris laughing, my first day at Thornfield, a Victorian woman painting portraits with brushes made of human hair, students dancing while their shadows remained still, the greenhouse empty and waiting. Margaret Thornfield screamed, a sound like tearing canvas as her form began to unravel. The portraits throughout the school cried out in response, hundreds of voices finally free to speak. But the mirror fought back. Shards rose into the air, spinning, slicing. One caught Iris across the ribs, another opened my palm to the bone. Margaret reformed from paint and shadow, reaching for us with hands that were sometimes claws, sometimes brushes, sometimes the grasping fingers of 100 trapped students. "You think destroying one mirror ends this," she laughed, but there was fear in it now. "I am this place, every board, every stone. I am eternal." "No," Iris gasped, pressing her hand to her bleeding side. "You're just paint and memory, and paintings can burn." She pulled out the lighter she'd been carrying for weeks, the one we'd found in the greenhouse, old and silver, engraved with the initials MT.
Margaret's own, from when she was human. The spirit paused, and for a moment I saw her as she'd been, young, lonely, desperate to hold on to something in a world that kept taking. Then Iris struck the flame. The fire didn't burn Thornhill, not the building, but it burned through the paintings, through the shadows, through the web of possession Margaret had woven into the very air. Students stepped out of portraits, confused and crying, aged not a day from when they'd been taken. Iris's sister collapsed into her arms, real and solid and sobbing. The school closed, of course. Officials came, asked questions we couldn't answer. The students were sent home with memories that would fade like dreams, leaving only the sense of time lost, of something escaped. But Iris and I remembered everything. We meet now at a coffee shop in Portland, both in our second year at different colleges. Her scar has faded but never disappeared, a reminder that some things mark us forever. We don't talk about Thornhill much, but sometimes, when autumn rain drums against windows, I see her hand shake as she reaches for her cup. Last week, she showed me a photo on her phone, an article about Thornhill being renovated, turned into a hotel. The investors are calling it a perfect preservation of Gothic architecture. They're particularly proud of the art collection they found intact. "We have to go back," Iris said. I took her hand, traced the thin scar across her palm that matched mine, our blood on the mirror, our promise to face things together. "I know," I said, "because I've been having dreams where I stand in a hallway of portraits, and all their eyes are open, and they're all painting, creating new frames, new spaces to fill. And in every dream, I hear the maiden's bell beginning to ring."